I never thought it would end like this. At 70 years old, my hands weathered from 4 decades of salt and storm, sitting in the keeper's cottage of my own lighthouse, watching thousands of strangers laugh at me on a glowing screen. It was a Tuesday in late September, the kind of crisp Maine morning where the air smells of pine and low tide. I'd just finished patching a cracked window pane in the lantern room, my fingers still sticky with caulk, when I sat down in my old oak rocking chair. The one I'd refinished myself after a nor'easter splintered the original in '98. I brewed a pot of chamomile tea, the scent curling like fog around the driftwood walls, and picked up my phone. I'm not one of those old ladies who can't work a smartphone. I taught myself with library books and stubbornness, same way I learned to wire the cottage's electricity. My granddaughter Lily had shown me YouTube for knitting tutorials and whale, watching live streams, simple things that warmed my heart. But that day, the algorithm served me something cruel. There was my daughter-in-law Harper, grinning into her camera with that influencer smile I once thought was charming. She wore the navy peacoat I'd sewn for her last Christmas, the one with brass buttons I'd polished myself. The video opened with a trendy indie folk tune, the kind that makes you feel like you're in a coastal rom-com. You'll wanna know the real tea about living in a lighthouse, Harper said, winking like she was spilling state secrets. My stomach tightened, but I didn't know why yet. The camera panned across my kitchen, where I just scrubbed the cast-iron skillet they'd left crusted with lobster mac and cheese. There I was, visible from behind in my faded denim apron, the one with tiny embroidered anchors Richard had loved. Meet my mother-in-law, Harper continued, her voice dripping with mock pity. She's basically the unpaid tour guide for this aesthetic vibe. Keeps the place running so I can live my best life face with tears of joy #lighthouse wife #in-law struggles. She laughed, that bright, performative laugh I knew from family clam bakes and 4th of July bonfires. But now it cut like a rusted blade. The comments flooded in. Lol, free labor. Grandmas are built-in staff, let the old gal earn her keep. Iconic. She's living in a museum and thinks she's the curator face with tears of joy. I felt something shatter inside me. Not loud, not dramatic, but quiet, like a seashell crushed underfoot on the rocky shore. My hands shook holding the phone. 92,000 views, 12,000 likes, 1,800 comments, thousands of shares. I was the afternoon's punchline for strangers who didn't know my name, didn't know what I'd built, what I'd lost, what I'd given. I closed the app, but the image burned into my soul. I stood, my knees creaking like the cottage's old floorboards, and walked to the kitchen. I poured water into a glass, one of the blue, immed set I'd bought with Richard on our honeymoon in '75. I drank slowly, trying to steady my breath, from the master bedroom, my bedroom, the one I'd surrendered for their newlywed comfort. I heard Harper's voice, "Babe, it's at 100K views already, they're eating it up." And then, the worst sound of all, my son Caleb's chuckle. "Harps, you're savage. Mom's old. School, she'll never see it." I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just smiled. A small, sharp smile from a place I didn't know existed. Because in that moment, as their laughter echoed through my walls, I understood. I'd been too generous, too quiet, too invisible. I'd mistaken love for erasure, and that was about to end. I opened the video again, watched every smirk, every comment calling me a freeloader, a relic, a burden. And as I watched, my mind sharpened like a harpoon. Harper had made the biggest mistake of her life. She didn't know who she was messing with. She didn't know this lighthouse, this cottage, this land was mine, built with my sweat, my grief, my unbreakable will. I was Captain Delphine Della Morao, keeper of Black Point Light, and I was about to remind everyone who kept this beacon burning. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the guest room, the narrow one with the slanted ceiling and the view of the gravel path, not the sea, staring at the knots in the pine walls. I woke at 3:30 a.m., my internal clock tuned to the tides. I slipped on my wool sweater, frayed at the cuffs, and walked barefoot to the shore. The air was sharp with salt and kelp. The waves hissed against the rocks, and the lighthouse beams swept across the water, steady as my heartbeat. I sat on the weathered bench I'd carved from driftwood in '96, the one facing the Atlantic, and let the memories flood in. I needed them to anchor me. I bought this land in 1984, a year after Richard drowned. Let me say that again so you feel it. I was 29, widowed, with a 5-year-old boy who still cried for his daddy in his sleep. Richard was a lobsterman, lost in a freak squall off Monhegan Island. The Coast Guard found his boat, but not him. Just his yellow slicker tangled in the nets. I had no savings, no family to lean on. My parents were gone, and Richard's kin vanished when they learned there was no insurance payout. The town whispered, "Sell the gear, Dell, move inland, find a man to provide." I smiled and thought I'd rather drown. I took a job as a deck hand on a whale, watch boat, 5 a.m. to 3 p.m., hauling tourists and scrubbing decks until my hands blistered. Caleb came with me, strapped in a life jacket, coloring in the galley while I coiled ropes. At night I cleaned the fish market, gutting cod under fluorescent lights until my fingers smelled of brine for days. I slept 3 hours, sometimes 2. On weekends, I sold clam chowder and blueberry muffins from a folding table at the harbor. Caleb shouted, "Hot chowder, best muffins in Maine." Every penny went into a rusted coffee tin under my bunk. No new clothes, no dinners out, just work, just saving, just the dream of a home where my son could grow up safe. It took 6 years, 6 years of storms, of calluses, of raising Caleb on peanut butter sandwiches and library books. In 1990, when Caleb was 11, I signed the deed to this half-acre of rocky coast. The lighthouse was decommissioned, a 60-foot granite tower crumbling into the sea. The keeper's cottage was a wreck. 1 room, no plumbing, windows shattered, roof half collapsed. The town called it a teardown. I called it mine. I cried when I got the keys, so hard Caleb hugged me and said, "Don't cry, Mama, we're home now." I rebuilt it with my own hands. I learned masonry from a retired keeper, mixed concrete in a wheelbarrow, laid every stone to reinforce the tower's base. I cut myself on barnacles, burned my arms on hot tar, ached for weeks hauling beams. I wired the cottage, plumbed the bathroom, installed the spiral stairs to the lantern room. I painted the walls seafoam green because I wanted the ocean inside. I planted beach roses by the door, built the driftwood bench, carved the eagle weather vane that still spins above the tower. By the time Caleb was 18, we had a home. We held his graduation party on the rocks, 50 guests, lobster rolls, my blueberry cobbler, and a bonfire under the stars. Caleb hugged me that night and said, "Mama, you gave me the world. I'll take care of you someday." I held those words like a talisman. When Caleb joined the Coast Guard, I expanded the cottage. I took a loan, added 2 bedrooms, a proper kitchen, a widow's walk. For when you bring your bride home, I teased. He laughed. "You're always the captain of this ship, Mama." I paid off the loan in 4 years, working double shifts at the marina, never complaining. Caleb met Harper at a Portland art gallery. She was a graphic designer, vibrant, ambitious, with a laugh like wind chimes. I liked her instantly. When they married, I hosted the wedding on the lighthouse grounds. Fairy lights in the roses, tables with checkered cloths I'd sewn, a clam chowder buffet. Harper hugged me and said, "Dell, you're the heart of this place. Caleb's so lucky." They moved in after their honeymoon, a weekend in Bar Harbor I'd paid for. Just until we saved for a condo, Caleb said, "Take your time." I replied, giving them the master bedroom with the ocean view, the one I designed for myself. I moved to the guest room. Harper protested, but I insisted. That's who I am. I give, I yield. I shrink so others can shine. Lily was born, then Jack. I became the full-time grand, mother rocking colicky babies, teaching them to tie knots, mending scraped knees. I cooked chowder, baked pies, scrubbed floors, washed laundry, all with my social security because I don't need much. I never asked for rent, never complained, because I thought that was love. But sitting on that driftwood bench at 4 a.m., the day after Harper's video, I realized I'd become a ghost in my own lighthouse, not because I was old or useless, but because I'd given so much I'd erased myself. I'd become a service, a prop, the woman who keeps the light so others can sail, and I'd let it happen. The sky turned pearl gray, gulls cried overhead. I touched the cottage wall, cold, solid mine. Every stone held my grief, every beam my hope, every window my vision. No one was taking this from me, not Harper, not anyone. I stood, my spine straight as the tower, and took a breath that tasted of salt and defiance. The tide had turned. I waited until breakfast. I made lobster Benedict, Caleb's favorite, with hollandaise I'd perfected over decades. I set the table with my blue-rimmed plates, cloth napkins, a pitcher of fresh, squeezed orange juice. Harper came down first, in silk pajamas that cost more than my monthly pension. Her hair was in a flawless bun, her skin glowing from some $1.80 cream. "Morning, Dell," she said, barely looking up from her phone. I poured coffee into her monogrammed mug, the one she'd brought, and declared hers alone. "Harper," I said, my voice steady as the lighthouse beam. "We need to talk." She glanced up, annoyed. "Yeah, what's up?" "I saw your video, the YouTube one, where you call me the unpaid tour guide." The air froze. Harper blinked, then laughed. A nervous, tinny sound. "Oh, Dell, it's just content. You're overreacting." "Overreacting?" Caleb came down, hair tousled, wearing the flannel I'd mended for him. "What's going on?" he asked, sensing the storm. Harper jumped in, playing victim. "Your mom's upset about a vlog I posted. It's just influencer humor, babe. Everyone gets it." Caleb looked at me, doubt in his eyes. "Mom, what video?" I pulled out my phone, opened YouTube, found Harper's channel. The video was at 150,000 views. I played it. Caleb watched, his face shifting from curiosity to unease. When it ended, he scratched his neck. "Mom, it's just Harper's brand. It's not personal. Not personal." My voice rose, though I fought to keep it level. "She filmed me without consent. She mocked me to thousands. She said I'm a prop in her aesthetic. And you laughed with her." Harper crossed her arms. "Dell, you love giving tours to tourists. I was just hyping your vibe." My vibe. 92,000 people laughed at me. I said, called me a freeloader, a relic. "That's not a vibe." Caleb sighed. "Mom, you're blowing this out of proportion." "Harper, take it down. Mom, let it go. I don't want drama in our home." Our home. I felt ice water in my veins. After Harper humiliated me, after strangers mocked my life, my son chose peace over justice. I stood. "You're right," I said, my voice calm as glass. "No drama. Enjoy your breakfast." I went to my room, locked the door, and let the rage burn. Tears came, but they fueled me. I'd been too good, too quiet. That ended now. 3 days later, I was still playing the dutiful grandmother. I baked muffins, braided Lily's hair, smiled when Harper breezed past. But I watched, I listened. On Wednesday night, Harper went to a girls' night in Portland. She came back at midnight, reeking of Prosecco and entitlement. Caleb was asleep, didn't ask questions. Thursday, while cleaning their room, yes, I was still doing it, though it killed me, I found a receipt. $220 at a rooftop bar. Dated Tuesday, when Harper said she was running errands. I slipped it into my apron pocket. Friday night changed everything. I couldn't sleep, my mind churning like the sea in a gale. I went to the kitchen for warm milk with honey, my remedy for restless nights. The cottage was dark, the only sound the creak of old beams and the distant boy bell. I was stirring my milk when I heard Harper's voice, low, conspiratorial, from the widow's walk. I froze, milk in hand, and crept to the spiral stairs. "No, Mom, it's not finalized." Harper whispered into her phone, "This takes finesse. The old bat's tougher than she looks." My blood ran cold. "Here's the plan," she continued. "When Dell kicks it, the lighthouse passes to Caleb. He's her only heir. What's his is mine, community property. The land alone's worth $8 million. We airbend the cottage, turn the tower into a glamping suite. Luxury lighthouse experience. Investors are salivating." I clutched the railing, my knuckles white. "Caleb doesn't know," Harper said, laughing dryly. "He's too soft about his precious mama. Thinks she's a saint. I'll keep her busy with tours and kids so she doesn't suspect. She's 70. How long's she got? 10 years, 5. She spoke of my death like a weather report. The vlog, that was for engagement. Controversy equals clicks. She'll get over it. What's she gonna do, evict us? She's got no spine." I covered my mouth to silence a gasp. My phone was in my sweater pocket. By instinct, or divine intervention, I'd hit record when I heard her voice. 8 minutes and 12 seconds of poison. I slipped back to my room, heart pounding, and played it. Harper's voice was crystal clear. Every word, every scheme, every lie. I smiled, the smile of a woman holding a loaded flare gun. Harper thought she was clever. She didn't know I'd survived storms that would have sunk her. I hid the phone under my pillow and planned. Saturday morning, I called my allies. First, Miriam Mimi Thibodeau, my best friend since grade school, a retired maritime lawyer with a mind sharper than a gaff hook. Then Jonah Morau, my nephew, Caleb's cousin, a trusts and estates attorney in Bangor. I'd helped raise Jonah after his parents died in a car crash. He owed me his life. Mimi met me at her bungalow, a cozy place smelling of cedar and coffee. I played the audio. Mimi's eyes blazed. That viper, she spat. What do you want, Dell? My lighthouse, my dignity, and Caleb's eyes opened. Mimi nodded. The property's in your name, solely. Will, I shook my head. Then Harper's half, right? Without a will, it goes to Caleb, but we'll fix that. Jonah arrived, suit crisp, briefcase heavy. Aunt Dell, let's make this ironclad. We crafted a plan, a National Historic Lighthouse Preservation Trust. I'd transfer the property to the trust, with myself as lifetime steward. No one could sell, claim, or touch it while I lived. Upon my death, it would pass to a nonprofit for public education, with Caleb as a secondary beneficiary only if he maintained it. Harper would get nothing. Jonah prepared the documents. Mimi handled the historic designation, leveraging the lighthouse's 1,872 provenance. Saturday night, Harper announced a creator retreat in Boston. All expenses paid, Dell. We leave tomorrow, back Monday. My pulse raced. Take the kids to the spa. I teased. Harper grimaced. They'll love grandma time. Lily and Jack cheered for a weekend with me. I waved them off Sunday morning, my smile a mask. As their SUV vanished, I texted Jonah, they're gone. Jonah arrived with a moving crew, 3 trusted men from his firm. I'd bribed Lily and Jack with pancakes and Mona on my tablet. They'd be occupied for hours, master bedroom first, I said, everything they brought. For 4 hours the men worked like a tide. Out went Harper's mid-century dresser, Caleb's flat screen, the king bed they'd bought because mine was too rustic. Out went Harper's ring lights, yoga mats, faux fur throws. Out went the Eames chair, the marble side tables, the Nespresso machine. Jonah photographed every item, cataloging serial numbers. I kept only what was mine, my pine bed, my driftwood dresser, my mother's quilt. The bedroom became a blank slate, smelling of salt and pine, not vanilla diffuser. The living room next. Out went the velvet sectional, the 75-inch TV, the Bluetooth speakers. I reclaimed my oak rocking chair, my braided rug, my ship-in-a-bottle collection. The kitchen, Harper's Le Creuset, her air fryer, her aesthetic glassware, gone. My cast-iron skillet, my blue-rimmed plates, my lobster pot returned. By noon, the truck was loaded. Storage unit on Route 1, Jonah said. Paid for 60 days. He changed the cottage door's lock, a heavy brass deadbolt gleaming like the lighthouse lens. 3 keys, 1 for me, 1 spare, 1 for Jonah. The cottage looked bare but mine, its soul restored. I hung Richard's oilskin coat by the door, placed seashells on the windowsills, lit a beeswax candle. Lily and Jack helped me bake cod with herbs from the garden. We ate on the rocks, the lighthouse beam sweeping above us. Grandma, why'd you move the furniture? Lily asked. Sometimes you clear out what doesn't belong to make room for what does. I said. She nodded, satisfied. Monday at 5 p.m. I heard their SUV crunch gravel. I sat in my rocking chair, tea steaming, back straight. I'd dressed for battle, my Navy captain's coat, hair in a tight braid. The kids played on the shore, told to stay put. Keys rattled, failed, rattled again. Caleb, it's stuck. Harper snapped. I opened the door. Caleb held a key, confused. Harper clutched a designer tote. Mom, the lock's jammed. Caleb said, it's not jammed. I replied, I changed it. Silence, thick as fog. What? Harper laughed nervously. Why? Because this is my lighthouse. Step inside. Leave your bags on the porch. They obeyed, wary, then they saw it. Harper gasped, where's my sofa, my TV, my life? Caleb's mouth fell open. Mom, what happened? Your belongings are in a storage unit on Route 1. I said, rocking gently, inventoried, photographed, safe. Harper bolted upstairs, screaming, my ring lights, my bed, my aesthetic. Caleb followed pale. They returned, Harper raging, Caleb shaken. "This is theft." Harper shrieked. "I'm calling the police." "Call them," I said. "I have the deed, the inventory, witnesses. I kept what's mine. You take what's yours." Harper lunged for the door. I pressed play on my phone. Her voice filled the cottage. "When Dell kicks it, the lighthouse passes to Caleb. $1. 8 million. Glamping. She's got no spine." Harper froze, color draining. Caleb sank into a chair, head in hands. The audio played every damning word. When it ended, silence roared louder than the sea. "That was private," Harper stammered, out of context. "Wednesday, 11:47 p.m. on my widow's walk," I said. "Planning to steal my life's work." Caleb looked up, tears streaking. "Mom, I didn't know, I swear." "I know," I said softly. "That's why your things are untouched." A knock. Jonah entered, briefcase in hand. "Mrs. Delphine Morrow, Jonah Morrow, your counsel." He laid out documents. "This is the National Historic Lighthouse Preservation Trust. Mrs. Morrow is lifetime steward. The property is untouchable. Here's the storage unit, key, and inventory. You have 60 days. Harper clutched the papers, trembling. "You can't." "I can," I said. "But I'm not evicting you. Caleb, you're my son. You stay with rules. Harper, you too. Or you leave, your choice." Caleb whispered, "What rules?" $1.2000 monthly rent. 2. Shared chores, scheduled. 3. Respect for me, this lighthouse, my legacy. 4. Delete the video, post a public apology, or you're out. Harper opened her mouth. 5. I cut in. "No more lies, no more schemes, or you go, and Caleb and the kids stay." Caleb looked at Harper. She looked at the floor. "I'm sorry." She mumbled. I wasn't sure if she meant it, but I had my lighthouse. My dignity, my son. Harper deleted the video, now at 500 zeros, 0 views. Her apology was raw, filmed on the rocks at dawn, no filters, voice cracking. "I mocked my mother-in-law, Delphine Morrow, the woman who built this lighthouse with her hands after losing her husband. I called her a prop. I was cruel, entitled, wrong. She's the strongest woman I know, and I betrayed her trust. To all grandmothers treated as invisible, I'm sorry. You deserve respect." It hit 1 million views in days. My cousin Sadie, a TikTok star with 300,000 followers, shared my story, respectfully, no names, just truth. A widow, a lighthouse, a betrayal, a stand. It went viral. #lighthouse grandmas trended. Women shared stories of reclaimed homes, trusts, boundaries. A reporter interviewed me, my back to the camera, voice clear. "Tell women they're not alone." I said, "Your worth isn't what you do for others. It's who you are. It's never too late to take back your light." Caleb separated from Harper. He paid rent, cooked, cleaned, learned to polish the lens. The kids thrived, learning knots, baking pies, respecting the lighthouse. Harper moved to Portland, saw the kids weekends. One Sunday, she apologized again, this time sincerely. "I didn't forgive, not fully, but I let go of hate. Forgiveness is a tide, not a switch." 3 months later, I sat on my driftwood bench, the lighthouse beam cutting the night. Caleb joined me. "Mom, I waived any claim to the lighthouse," he said, showing legal papers. "It's yours always." I cried but smiled. My true legacy wasn't the tower, but the women who wrote, "Dell, I saved my farm." I protected my shop. I found my voice. I'd kept my light burning, and lit theirs too.